Don't capture this part. Hey everyone, I'm Claire. Welcome to my home kitchen. Today I am going to show you, we don't know how many I'm gonna get through. I feel like I need to do intros with being like 5, 7, and 9 because we don't know how long this is gonna take. Today I'm gonna show you an indeterminate number of essential pastry techniques because we have a hard out in less than 2 hours. We have at least 5, possibly up to 9 essential pastry techniques that I'm going to show you today that you'll use for all sorts of different baking recipes. It all depends on how many we get through before I have to go to a Passover Seder. Okay? Cool. Okay, where should we start with?
Piping.
Piping bag? Okay. This is a pastry bag, and this is a tool that's used for a technique called piping, which is basically extruding a mixture through the end of the bag to do some like detail work or to fill things. Disposable ones are great because they're easy, but I like to use the ones that are reusable. You can also reuse these and just wash them. So here's what I do. I open up the bag, put my hand in, then I stick the bag inside of a tall vessel. Really what's great is a quart-sized container, but I don't know where they are. I'm out of them at the moment. And then fold the ends of the bag down. So then I'm gonna grab, I have some pastry cream that I made. It's actually a chocolate pastry cream. I'm gonna use my spatula. I'm not gonna transfer all of it. I'm really filling the glass. So you can go ahead and press that down into the glass. Try to avoid getting the pastry cream around the sides of the bag. And then as you fill, you can lift up the sides a bit to fill even more. Once you've filled it with the amount that you need or the whole amount, you go ahead and lift the bag out of the container. And you can see that now I have the sides of the bag really clean. I don't have pastry cream like all, around the top, and it's not gonna get on my hands. And now the next thing you wanna do is lay that pastry bag down flat, grab something like a bench scraper or a bowl scraper. And now one thing you wanna avoid when you're piping is having lots of air pockets inside the bag because that's gonna interrupt whatever you're piping. It breaks the line that you're creating, and then you have to kind of start over. So that's really annoying. So to eliminate air pockets, I like to do this step, which is forcing the contents down to the bottom of the bag. I don't have a pastry tip on the bottom here. I just have a normal end of the bag. Snip a little opening at the end. So I just snipped a little bit off the bag. And now as you force the mixture through, the air can escape at the other end. When you have everything in a nice tight little section in the piping bag, grab those free ends that are nice and clean, squeeze them together, and twist. So twisting will also further force everything toward the tip of the bag, and then you can cut off, whatever size opening you need. All right, one thing you can also do to make your life a little bit easier, I keep a baggie of rubber bands. Like if you take something home from the store that has a rubber band around it, like a bunch of scallions or something, save the rubber bands, and then you can actually rubber band the twisted end to secure it. And now you have this really easy to work with filled bag that's super easy to pipe. So, you'll do there you go. It's hard to pipe chocolate pastry cream. One method is just tracing around the pan and cutting a circle, but a method, and I go back and forth, but the method that I've been using the most recently is a quicker method, and that is folding and cutting. I have a piece of parchment paper that I know is wider in every direction than the pan. This is a 9-inch cake pan. So here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to fold this piece of parchment paper first in half but diagonally, so into 2 triangles basically. I am aligning the sides here and creating a straight edge, and then go ahead and crimp along the diagonal. And now I'm going to continue that folding process along the diagonal to make subsequently thinner triangles, always folding along the folded edge. So here I have now this diagonal. I'm going to fold in half again, press, then in half again. So you can see each time I am cutting that triangle in half and then in half again. And then once I get down to a triangle that's, maybe about an inch wide at the base, I'm going to take my pan. Then I eyeball this. So I take the point of the triangle and I line it up to the center point of the pan. And then I see where the long end of the triangle hits the edge, and that's the point where I'm going to cut across. What you should have ideally is a triangle that sits inside the pan and hits that center point. When I unfold this, I have a round that is the exact same size as the interior of the pan. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of softened butter. You could use oil. You could just use like Pam or a spray oil. And I'm not greasing it to prevent sticking. I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm greasing it to create a surface to which the parchment paper can stick. And go ahead and lay your parchment down, smooth it to eliminate air bubbles. So you can see I have an edge where I had a little bit of excess parchment. The round was a little bit bigger. That's fine. Just go ahead and smooth it. And now I have this really well sort of like sealed layer of parchment paper in the bottom, and then go ahead and give everything another thin layer of butter. And this will guarantee that no cake sticks. I don't need to flour it. You can bake with, total peace of mind. Pie is very technical. There's a lot of technique involved, a lot to learn. So I'm going to show you how to get sort of the nicest decorative edge with the least amount of effort. If you're really confident and your dough is decently well chilled, you can just slide it onto the pie plate. Another thing you can do is fold it, and then it's a little easier to maneuver into the plate, just like that, and then unfold. Another thing you can do, which I think is like slightly more advanced, is roll it onto your rolling pin. Put the rolling pin on one end, wind it onto the pin as you move across, and then you unroll it into your plate. So now it's important that you not stress the dough and tug it and stretch it. So let it kind of slump down into the pie plate and fill in that little space between the side and then where the bottom starts. So press really, really well. One thing that is important is that there's full contact between the dough and the side and bottom of the pie plate, because that's how you'll get browning in the oven. Our pie plate is now lined, and it's time to make that decorative edge. The first thing I like to do is trim it. I sort of pinch the edge of the dough, and I feel where the pie plate ends, where that little lip of the plate ends. And I'm going to leave about a ½ inch overhang all the way around. Fold the edge of the dough underneath itself so it is right resting on the lip of the pie plate. So I simply take the edge of the dough and tuck it underneath, just like that. And I'm creating a reinforced edge that has a double thickness all the way around the pie plate. So this is not only reinforcing the dough, but it is creating kind of a rounded finished edge. Now at this stage, I sort of lifted up the dough a little bit to get the edge under, and I'm going to go ahead and press again all the way around. So now I'm ready to start the actual crimp. I'm going to take a little bit of flour. I usually will put like a little pile of flour on the surface, just like that, for me to dip my hands into if I need to. Again, this dough is a little bit warm, so I'm going to need a lot of flour in my hands. And you are basically pinching the dough into a point. I prefer actually a slightly more dramatic, larger crimp, rather than kind of creating these little points, more of a wave. So I like to use my thumb on one hand, and then my thumb and index finger on the other hand. But same technique, I'm going in with my thumb, and I leave a little bit of a space next to the previous wave. My index and thumb go around my other thumb, and my index finger is sort of fitting into the wave that I just created the last time. You just go around. And what the crimping does is a couple things. One, I'm anchoring the edge to the pie plate. So as I press with my opposite fingers, I'm pressing not only out, but down. So that's really sitting on the edge of the plate and it's not going to slump down into the pie plate or shrink back so much. The other thing it's doing is creating more surface area around the edge, and that's creating more opportunity for browning. It's thinning out that line of dough so that I'm not getting something really thick and gummy that cooks slower than the rest of the pie. So it's functional as well as decorative. If you decide that you don't quite have enough dough to work with, just flatten out that edge like so with your thumb. Take a fork. You can dip the tines in a little bit of flour. Another way to decorate your pie plate. Again, you're thinning it out, you're anchoring it to the edge. That's how you crimp a pie crust. This is what I don't do. I don't use the measure itself to scoop up the flour because that action of scooping it through the mixture, it's kind of like using the edge of the container to scoop it up and it's getting compacted, and then you'll end up with a heavier cup of flour than you really wanted. So I use a scoop and I gently fill the cup of flour with the scoop. And I sort of let the flour fall into the cup. Then level the flour. And when I do that, I get a consistent cup of flour every time. Mine is about 130 grams. It's different person to person, it's different from brand of flour, but that is sort of my standard. When I'm recipe developing, I often will both weigh my flour and measure by volume. It comes in different units, so it has grams and ounces and, different ounces, I don't know. I put a bowl on the scale. Now, of course, the bowl weighs something, so now it's reading 169 grams. Then I hit the tare button, or sometimes it says 0, and that brings the weight down to 0. So now anything I put in the bowl, that's what I'm taking the weight of. If I weigh out 130 grams, that's about a cup. So I'm at 111, 130. Measuring by weight and using a scale, more accurate, cleaner. Measuring by volume, I would just always stick to those tips, not using flour out of the bag and not scooping with the measuring cup itself, and then you will get a much more accurate cup of flour. First thing you want to do is use very cold cream. So this is straight out of the fridge. You can chill the bowl beforehand as well if you need to. I'm not going to whip that much, and I'm going to do it by hand. Use a nice big bowl. This bowl is really too small, frankly, and I only put a little bit of cream in it. But you want to use a bowl where there's a lot of room for the whisk to move around because the idea is to incorporate air into the cream. So, one thing I do is like season the cream with a little bit of salt, just a little pinch. It tends to help bring out the delicious lactic flavor of the cream. Try to use a large whisk. That's going to help you incorporate as much air as possible. My other whisks have been decommissioned at the moment, so I'm just using this too small whisk and whipping cream in too small of a bowl. But I whisk constantly and very rapidly, and I like to move it around the bowl. And the idea is that I am beating it to incorporate air. So I will lift the whisk as I work and then kind of hit the bowl at the bottom again. And a lot of times I like to go in a figure 8 pattern, drawing an 8 in the bottom of the bowl. I don't know, people have all different methods for whisking. Some people are like, oh, you should keep your elbow tucked in. That doesn't really work for me. Sometimes I'll hold the bowl down here so that I can keep my arms straight. And that's if I'm doing a lot of cream at once. So I'm going to whisk this until I start to see it thicken. This bowl is really not big enough. Use a bigger whisk than this, stupid. So we're approaching soft peaks. We're not there yet. The cream is thickened, but it's still liquid. So when I whisk it, it will still settle back into the bowl. So when I do this, see how the cream droops over and settles into sort of a soft mound rather than a point with volume to it. So this is the point that I would take cream to if I were serving it on top of a cake. This is also the point that you would take it to if you were folding it into a mousse, for example. So I usually use confectioner sugar when it comes to whipped cream because it dissolves so quickly and you don't get any gritty texture. It also has a little bit of cornstarch in it to prevent clumping, and I think that cornstarch has a little bit of a stabilizing effect. I'm gonna take this to firm peaks and show you what that looks like. So just keep whisking, and it happens pretty quickly. You can see that after just 15 seconds of whisking, the texture has changed quite a bit. This is, I mean, I actually really went a little too far. This is beyond a firm peak. I mean, I've taken us a good ways of the way to butter. If you have over whipped your cream like I have, take a little bit of liquid cream and, you know, add it in. Depends on how much you have, but add it in little by little. A little liquid cream should help smooth it out. So this is like a stiffly whipped cream. You can see that. That is like, you know, holding its shape, keeping a point. That's a firm peak. Yeast comes in these tiny little, they almost look like mini sprinkles, and around them is a coating that is sort of a dehydrated coating, and that has to be dissolved in order for the yeast to activate. So yeast are natural single-cell organisms that feed off of, in the case of baked goods, the carbohydrates in flour, and they produce carbon dioxide, and that is what is raising your baked goods. So we want to make sure that those yeast are alive, that they will raise your bread or whatever. So this step called proofing is sort of telling you that your yeast is alive and that it's going to do its job. They're like dormant because of the coating. And then as soon as we dissolve that coating and we give the yeast something to feed on, we're going to see some bubbling. And when you are dissolving it, you want to make sure that the liquid that you're using is not over 120 Fahrenheit. This guy is right around 112, which is a good temp. Anything above 120, you risk killing the yeast, and then nothing's going to happen. I'm slowly adding the warm liquid to the yeast and whisking constantly. And now I'm also adding a pinch of sugar. So without sugar, the yeast doesn't have anything to feed off of. So you really only get this visible foaming action if you add sugar. Now the yeast is dissolved, and I want to stop whisking at that point, because if you continue to agitate it, you won't see the foaming. You'll basically like destroy the foaming action from the whisk. So I'm going to let this sit here and resist the urge to like poke at it or touch it or whatever, and then I'll come back in a few minutes and we should start to see like visible patches of puffy, foamy yeast. Basically what we have here is this sort of teeming foamy surface and a slight dome almost. So you have all these little air bubbles in here creating this very fine foam. There's this liquid underneath, and then you have this active, very light, airy foam on top. It should smell like fresh baked bread. I mean, it should smell, not surprisingly, very yeasty. That is proofed yeast. That is ready to add directly to your recipe, and you know that your yeast is alive and well, and if you follow every other direction in the recipe, it should turn out great. There are so many recipes that start with caramelizing sugar, and it is a chemical reaction called the Maillard reaction. That's about all I can say about that, but it takes refined white sugar and turns it into this dark, nutty smelling, delicious, like magical mixture called caramel. I have about a half a cup of granulated sugar. I'm going to turn on the heat. I have here a quarter cup of water. So when I do this, I pour the water around the edges of the pot. I have like a limited scientific understanding of what this process is, but I know what not to do. We are trying to keep the sugar in a solution state rather than in a crystallized state, because we're trying to dissolve it. And crystallization is the enemy of caramel, because that is what is going to make the caramel grainy and sort of unpleasant and gritty rather than smooth. So while I am dissolving the sugar, I can still see the granules, and like it has not dissolved into the water yet. I can stir. So feel free to stir at this early stage. As it comes up to a boil and the sugar dissolves, it will go clear, and I'm starting to see some bubbles. So as soon as it's boiling and the sugar is dissolved, I'm going to stop stirring, and that's really important. I have my pastry brush here, it's clean, and a little dish of water. As it boils and the water is boiled off, the solution will concentrate, and that will drive up the boiling point. So this temperature will slowly climb, and it's only after the mixture reaches around 300 Fahrenheit that it will start to take on color. First is swirling the pot every so often. And that is, I'm not stirring, so I'm not agitating the mixture, but what I'm doing is moving it around the bottom of the pan, and that is helping to equalize the temperature, because sometimes you get hot spots. So like the area over here might be really hot, the area over there might be a little bit cooler. The other thing I recommend doing is wiping down the sides with a wet pastry brush. So I dip the pastry brush in a little bit of water, and I basically just brush the sides, and that is to dissolve any potential sugar crystals that have formed The reason I want to brush down the sides of the pot is because I want to dissolve any crystals that might be stuck to the side, so any sugar that hasn't dissolved yet. Any lingering sugar crystals can create a chain reaction in the final caramel. So you have like one sugar crystal in there, and then as the thing cools, it crystallizes the entire rest of the mixture, and then you have a grainy caramel, and that is super annoying. I never want to walk away from caramel. I've done that before, and every time I burn it. This is a process that when it starts to happen, it happens quickly. You always want to pay attention to it, even in the very beginning, but you especially want to pay attention to it at this stage, which is when it's about to start caramelizing. There's really almost no water left in it, and what I'll start to see shortly is a ring around the sides of the saucepan that are starting to turn golden. You want to drop the heat as soon as you start to see the color, because too much heat at that point means you're probably going to overshoot it and end up burning it. And that's when you also want to swirl it, because you want to incorporate that into the center of the saucepan so you have even coloration. It will go through stages of blonde, dark blonde, golden, deep golden, amber, dark amber. I like to go pretty much all the way to dark amber. You can see it's already, I would say I'm at kind of amber right now. You'll also see that there's sort of wisps of smoke. That means if I were to walk away, in seconds this would be burned. Instead, I'm going to remove it from the heat. So at this stage, to stop the cooking, because I don't want it to burn, I'm going to add some cold butter. And butter has a little bit of water in it, so it will sputter as soon as I add it. So add it carefully and one piece at a time. I'm not on the heat anymore. The heat is gone. And at this stage, you can stir. I'm also going to add some salt, because caramel and salt love each other. Just some kosher salt. I'm also going to add a little bit of heavy cream. And what I'm basically making now is a caramel sauce. So this will be a liquid caramel. The mixture is still quite hot, so as I add the cream, it's kind of boiling out. As it cools, it will set up quite a bit, and if you were to refrigerate it, which I will, it will be completely solid. It looks super loose, but really this will thicken up quite a bit as it cools. You can add a little vanilla bean. That would be delish. But this is our caramel sauce that we made from wet caramel. I don't know where the lid for this jar is, so I'm just putting one of these guys on it. The little smiley face. Okay. And that's caramel. Where the do I put this? I have to edit myself and not add brown butter to every recipe that calls for butter. Because if a recipe is good with butter, it's even better with brown butter, which is butter that has been cooked to the point where all the water has boiled off and the milk solids in the butter have caramelized and become golden brown and toasty and caramel flavored, and it is the most delicious thing ever. It is a simple process and yet a technical one at the same time. So I have a stick of butter here that is 4 ounces. I'm putting it into a saucepan. And we cook the butter until it browns. That said, there's a lot that you want to look for and a lot of things that can go wrong. So I'm going to walk you through it. I'm turning on my heat around medium. And the key to browning butter is really just having good control of your heat under your saucepan. So sometimes when I replace butter in a recipe with brown butter, I'll add back in a little bit of liquid to replace the water that I've boiled out of the brown butter. Because sometimes that little bit of water in butter is really important. It can help dissolve sugar, like it serves a purpose. And I'm seeing this white foamy mixture. That white foamy mixture is the milk solids. So you can hear that it's coming up to a boil. While the butter is boiling off, you want to sit here and watch it and continue to stir it for a couple reasons. One, if you don't stir it, it's going to sputter, and then as soon as you walk over to it, it's going to like hit you in the face, like flying hot boiling butter, which has happened to me and it sucks. The other reason is you want to keep those milk solids moving around. If you don't continue to stir it, you can either whisk it or you can stir it, and I'm using a spatula to really scrape the bottom. The milk solids tend to stick to the bottom of the pot, and then they burn really easily. And rather than boiling, what I'm getting is like a foaminess rather than lots of big boiling water bubbles. And that means you are about to have brown butter. So keep an eye on it. And at first you'll see maybe a light golden color. It can be hard to see it in the midst of the foam. So really stir so you can look at the super bright yellow melted butter underneath. And you'll also smell it. You'll smell this sort of butterscotchy aroma. If your butter is browning really fast, like if you were to leave it on the stove, it could very likely burn. go ahead and immediately scrape it out into a bowl like this, get it out of the pot, and that will stop the cooking. So I'm going to show you what this looks like by putting it in a bowl. I have some stuck on solids around the edges. When you transfer the butter, scrape every last tiny bit out of the pot. Those bits, like that is such incredible flavor. You want to save that. It's precious. And now, see how I have a little bit left in the pot? Get all of that in there. There's nothing better than brown butter. So the last technique I'm going to show you is a basic double boiler setup. Double boiler is a term for a specific kind of cookware, actually, that like my mom's set of cookware has. It's sort of old-fashioned. Not that she's old-fashioned, sorry, Mom. She has a very old set of cookware. And it is basically a pot with a smaller pot that is designed to sit exactly inside. So you have sort of two levels and you have boiling water on the bottom level. A double boiler is a very gentle way to melt something or heat something up. So most people don't have an actual piece of cookware called a double boiler. So we mimic the setup by using a saucepan and a heat-proof bowl. So here I have a small bowl, a small saucepan, and I have the saucepan filled with about an inch or inch and a half of water. You don't need that much. You do not want to fill it up because the idea is that you set the bowl inside the saucepan and the water is underneath but not touching the bowl. So I'm going to put a little bit of heat under this. I'll put it over medium. Basically, I want to simmer this water. I don't even want to boil it. I want to have a steaming action, but not like lots of vigorous boiling. And the steam generated inside the saucepan, trapped by the bowl, is going to gently heat the contents of the bowl. The water level is well beneath the bowl. So I have a little condensation on the bowl because of the steam, but the water is not touching the bowl. That's very important. I have some chocolate discs here. I'll put in probably just like 2 ounces of chocolate. And I'll make sure my heat is low enough that I'm not going to boil the water. And instantly I start to see some melting around the sides of the bowl.
And then it melts. Thanks for watching.
And then you have melted chocolate. I gotta get out of here and go to a Seder. Bye, guys. So you can see the chocolate is melting rather quickly because the entire surface of the bowl is heating up, but the bowl itself is really hot. So you can actually take the mixture off of the heat before the chocolate is completely melted, and then the heat in the melted chocolate will continue to gently melt the remainder. You know, you can go 80, 90% of the way and let the heat in there gently carry it over. So those are some tips, not only for melting chocolate, but just for the entire double boiler setup, which you might see called for in recipes. If you're not familiar with what that means, now you know. So we just kind of breezed through 9 really essential pastry techniques. You'll probably see them called for a lot in any kind of baking recipe, but especially in dessert person. So let us know in the comments if there's any other techniques that you'd like to see. We're happy to do more of these. They're really fun to show. And thanks for watching, and like and subscribe.
Cut!